right. I would like to bring the town council regular meeting for November 15th, 2021 to order. Roll call, please.
Councilor Schoen.
Present.
Councilor Mellon.
Present.
Councilor Gardner.
Present.
Councilor Tulowitzki.
Present.
And Council President Kulturitis.
Present.
5 present.
Please
All.
stand for a moment of silence and the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody, tonight. That brings us to the swearing in of Police Officer Jay Kennedy. Wendy?
This is my time to shine.
That's
To
right.
Come up here. And
Absolutely.
actually, it's a great time because this is, I've known Joseph Kennedy for many, many years. It's a great honor to be the one that gets to swear you in. We want to thank the Kennedys for showing up tonight. Nice to see you both, and I'm sure you're quite proud. The oath of office is a promise to the community that you will serve to the best of your judgment and ability. The Munster policing model focuses on serving the community. When they hire, they look for the core of who a person is. They want a strong desire to serve. The mechanics of being a police officer, such as emergency driving and handcuffing and firearms, can be taught, but who they come from, their family and friends, is very, very important. So, and each officer will take a slightly different path to our department. As a homegrown Munster boy, we're happy to have you as a member of the Munster Police Department. And if you're ready to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joseph Kennedy,
Joseph Kennedy,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Indiana,
and of the state of Indiana,
and faithfully discharge
and faithfully discharge
the duties of police officer
the duties of police officer
for the town of Munster,
for the town of Munster,
in the county of Lake,
county of Lake,
in the state of Indiana,
in the state of Indiana,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, officer.
Thank
Nice
you.
to have you on board.
Oh, yeah. Welcome, how are you? Thanks, sir.
Congratulations, welcome.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. How are you? Congratulations. Good to see you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Joe,
Thank
we'll take a picture with your parents. One quick picture.
Run, run, run.
You don't want to photo bomb?
You're welcome.
Sir.
Welcome to the team, Joseph.
Thank you.
All righty. That brings us to the public comment, and purpose public comment is limited to 2 minutes maximum per person or 5 minutes for a group spokesman. Please keep your comments civil and constructive to public policies. The chair at sole discretion may recognize individuals wishing to speak on different topics at any time and open to the public session. All speakers will be timed by the clerk treasurer. This portion of the meeting shall not exceed 20 minutes. Public comments can also be submitted electronically. If you have a question or comment about an item on the agenda, please email that question or comment to danderson@munster.org. Mr. Anderson will ensure that all submissions are shared with the elected officials of the town and that submissions will be entered into the minutes of the meeting. Please keep your comments civil and constructive to public policies. If anybody wishes to speak tonight, please approach the podium, state your name and address. Anybody wishing to speak tonight?
Bob Cashman.
Sure. 1 second, Bob.
Hello,
We can hear you.
Bob Cashman, 1632 Wilson Street, 82-year resident of Munster. And I would like to ask a question. What is the status of the Centennial Building? Garden building.
Sure. The status of the Centennial Building is it's currently closed to the public, and there is limited accessibility for staff.
In 2006, I ran for town board, and I sent a brochure to every family in Munster that the clubhouse would sink. And I guess I can say I told you so. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Does anybody else wish to speak tonight? If there's anything electronically?
No one's online.
Thank you. I will close the open to the public. That brings us down to the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I move we accept the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Schoen,
Yes.
Counselor Mellon,
Yes.
Counselor Gardner,
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
and President Kulturitis. 5-0.
Your old business, we have item A, ordinance 1847, amending chapter 26, article 6, table 26-6.405.A-6, table 26-6.405.A7, table 26-6.407.88. Table 26-6.405-L-1 of the Munster, of the Town of Munster Municipal Code, designated residency portion of live/mixed use or flex buildings use a conditional use in the CD4.A, CD4B, and CD5 districts. Second reading.
Well, after that, is there really anything more we can say?
Not much, no. You did a great job on that. This ordinance is presented for you, for your consideration. It was heard on first read at the last meeting, and in fact, what it will do is change the designation of the residence portion of mixed-use buildings. So if you imagine a building with ground floor commercial and residential uses on the upper stories, it will change that from being a permitted use in the CD4A, CD4B, and CD5 districts, which are our mixed-use commercial districts. It will change that from a permitted use to a conditional use. So what that means is that in addition to any particular project having to be approved by the Plan Commission, if it includes a residential component, it will also need to be heard at a public hearing or presented at a public hearing before the Board of Zoning Appeals, which will submit a recommendation for approval or denial to the council. So ultimately, the town council would approve any type of this project. And there are 4 tables in the zoning ordinance which include this designation, which is why those 4 were listed in the description that you read.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 1847, amending table 26-6.405.A-6, table 26-6.405.A-7, table 26-6.405.8-8, table 26-6.405.L-1 of the Munster zoning ordinance, designating the residence portion of live work, mixed use, or flex building use as a conditional use in the CD4A, CD4B, and CD5 districts.
Or second.
I'll second that motion.
Any Any discussion?
I just reiterate what we said last time. This does not mean that it's not possible to build a residence in these zones. It just gives the town council an extra look at the developments that are being proposed, a chance to engage through the comprehensive planning process that we're hoping to put in place next year, to engage the community about how do we want these zones to really look for the next generation or so.
And I would also say that I do think future development will have to take into consideration some of these mixed use. I think to fully take advantage of the environment that we're going to be living in. So I do think that mixed use and live, work, and flex buildings are some things that we should be considering and always reviewing to make sure that they fit within our plan.
And I would just say, as a member of the Plan Commission and different things that we have heard, the reason why we put, not the brakes, just put another layer on this is because there was some concern about what the maximum density would actually yield if fully built as the zone permits. So in terms of infrastructure, schools, et cetera. So, as what everybody else said is true, doesn't mean it can't happen, but we wanted to have a better look at each project individually. So thank you, everyone, for working on this.
Roll call.
Counselor Schoen.
Yes.
Counselor Mellon.
Yes.
Counselor Gardner.
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki.
Yes.
President Kulturitis.
Yes.
5-0 in favor.
Item B, ordinance 1849, 2022 salary or ordinance, second reading.
The council had the first reading of the salary ordinance on November 1st at our last meeting. The compensation for elected officials must be fixed in the police pension board base. Those all must be certified by January 1st, so we're nicely ahead of schedule. Proposed ordinance 1849 is prepared for that purpose and includes other annual authorizations related to payroll, which include a 3% increase for all employees. 3 changes have been made since the first reading. Exhibit D, which is the distribution of payroll by fund, has been modified to comply with some new information we received from the State Board of Accounts regarding spending of the MBH fund. This states the funds to be used for each position and has no impact on wages or the benefits of any employee. It's just how the salary is distributed. There are 2 other changes, and they're regarding the police department take-home vehicles. There was a correction to the Indiana code referenced and clarification of the type of usage allowed for our police chief. It has been the practice that the police chief is allowed unlimited personal use of his vehicle, which is allowed if we pass an ordinance to formalize it. And so this ordinance will formalize that practice.
Thank you, Wendy.
Mr. President, I would make a motion that we adopt ordinance 1849 on second reading as presented.
For a second,
I'll second.
any discussion?
Notice 3% salary increase this year to all town staff as part of the salary ordinance. I think that is a positive move forward. Last year we did what we could afford, which wasn't quite 3%, but happy to see that forward progress.
Roll call.
Counselor Schoen.
Yes.
Counselor Mellon.
Yes.
Counselor Gardner.
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki.
Yes.
President Kulturitis.
Yes.
5-0.
Under new business item A, ordinance 1850, additional appropriation.
Tricia, do you mind? Thank you.
So we thought we were done with additional appropriations for the year, but I imagine you all remember that last year about this time Hammond raised the water rate. And we knew that the rate was going to go into effect January 1st, but there were discussions regarding the final agreement. And in the meantime, they were charging us the old rate, knowing that we would get a true-up bill. Well, that true-up bill came this week, or last week rather. And we have the cash to pay the bill, but we don't have the appropriations. So that's what started this. So the amount you see there for the water fund, that $400,000, the bill is actually $404,000. That's what that will be used for. Since we were going to have to come back and ask you anyway, we looked at other funds, and that's why that local law enforcement continuing education fund is in there as well. They had some cash they wanted to pay for their gun range fees for 2022 this year, using this year's appropriations. So that's why that one is in there as well. Same practice as always, asking you to have first reading now, public hearing at the next meeting, and then adoption.
Thank you.
Tricia, the 404,000 bill, was that about in line with expectations?
Yes.
And the true up, I think, was included in the previous rate increase.
Right, when the council adopted the new rate increase, they also put in a piece to do what we were calling a retroactive fee, knowing that this was coming. We had hoped that we would get that bill more like July or August, but because it's come so late in the year, that's why we had to come to you now.
So just to be clear, the increase had already, that everyone in town has paid, already
Right.
covered for this. It
Yeah.
was planned, the amount that we expected is what has come in. We have the money, and it's just an appropriation.
It's just asking that
So we can
permission to
pay the bill.
spend it. Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Mr. President, I would make a motion that we hear proposed ordinance 1850 for additional appropriations on first read tonight and schedule a public hearing and second reading for December 6th for the second reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Schoen,
Yes.
Counselor Mellon,
Yes.
Counselor Gardner,
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
President Kulturitis.
Yes.
5-0.
Item B, Barnes and Thornburg engagement letter for the season 2022 legislation lobbying. Excuse me.
This is a annual engagement that we ask council to consider. And once again, with the legislative season upon us, we are looking again to see if council would like to engage with Barnes and Thornburg to be our advocates at the State House.
Mr. President, I would make a motion and by voice vote authorize the town manager to sign the letter of engagement with Barnes and Thornburg for the legislative lobbying services for the upcoming year.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Discussion.
Just one question for the current year. Oops, since we do this each year, just curious what the usage was in the past year.
So we had this conversation internally. It's kind of hard to prove a negative, right? So it's a judgment call by council. I can tell you that we are a member of AIM. AIM does a great job, but AIM also advocates for all municipalities, right? So the interests of Munster may often align with, Elkhart, Huntington, Huntingburg, and Huntertown, but not always, right? And AIM's job is to advocate for all those communities. So on the one hand, there is something to be said for having a person or persons that have a functional relationship with key legislators to advocate for Munster specific things. And again, how do you prove a negative? Do we get the value out of it? One could argue that, when there's legislation that says, what's the population threshold? I might get a call saying, hey, what's the population of Munster this year? It's 24,000. We go, and then, in that bill, it appears this legislation applies to all municipalities under this particular population threshold. You'll remember a lot of discussion about the state talking about eliminating any kind of form-based code regulations for buildings. It was kind of an all hands on deck, but I would like to think that having our own lobbyist at the State House and expressing the downsides of that for our particular community and our residents and businesses played some part in that legislation being shelved. With a supermajority in both houses, you never know what's going to come. I think there were, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces of legislation. And it's almost an insurmountable amount of legislation for a single person or a team of persons internally to wade through and understand on the fly. To have a multiple resources like AIM and Barnes and Thornburg be able to leverage the amount of staff they have to sift through and identify what pieces of legislation actually have legs and where the fulcrum piece of influence may be to either mitigate the harm or actually turn it into something good is an opportunity. But again, it's a judgment call.
I'm not challenging that we should do it. We do it every year. I think it makes sense. The question was just, and you gave some good examples. What were the instances where it was important to have this in previous year? I also have insurance. I think most people have insurance. I don't want to use it. I'm sure glad that I have it and that I have a really good insurance provider if and when I need to use it. So thank you for the explanation.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Schoen.
Yes.
Counselor Mellon.
Yes.
Counselor Gardner.
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki.
Yes.
President Kulturitis.
Yes.
5-0.
Item C, Maple Leaf Crossing, granting of easement to NIPSCO.
You want me to do this one, Dave?
Sure.
This is a pretty straightforward granting of an easement. In our quitclaim quiet title work that Mr. Westland and his staff did on our behalf to facilitate the necessary land transfers between the town and Maple Leaf Crossing, there were some opportunities identified to clean up some of the in-practice easements that are there. So NIPSCO always has been a good partner to us, and we've identified a few things with them. What we're doing is just granting easements for stuff that's there. And you know, they've done the same for us, helped us out. I think this is just it's almost a ministerial action.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I move that we grant the aforementioned electric and gas facilities access easement to NIPSCO.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
Counselor Schoen.
Yes.
Counselor Mellon.
Yes.
Counselor Gardner.
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki.
Yes.
President Kulturitis.
Yes. Item D, Lake Business Center PUD amendment for Home 2 Suites Hotel Ordinance 1851.
Good evening again. We put together this memo and this ordinance last week for a PUD amendment to the Lake Business Center planned unit development. We had received an application from Hospitality Project Services to amend that planned unit development in order to construct a Home 2 Suites hotel at the northwest corner of the Lake Business Center. And it was heard by the Plan Commission at a public hearing. The Plan Commission voted to forward an unfavorable recommendation to the Town Council for this amendment. And then on Friday, I received word from the applicant that they would like to withdraw their application. I received the formal letter today. So I spoke with Dave Westland about the procedure for that, and he advised that we have it on the agenda and just make note of the fact that it was formally withdrawn. So I don't know if there's any motion or anything that needs to be
So
made.
there's no action for tonight then?
No, I mean, the issue is once a petitioner has a hearing before a plan commissioner or BZA, and then they get kind of a negative result, sometimes they believe that they can just withdraw that petition because there are timeframes in our ordinances in terms of when you can bring the same petition back. So when Tom called me or emailed me on Friday and said, I think they would like to withdraw it, once you've had that public hearing at that body below, whether it's a plan commission or BZA matter, they can withdraw it, but it's still, the time limits for bringing back the same project still attached. And because it was already on your agenda by the time I advised Tom that, and I don't, you don't need to take any formal action tonight, but I wanted it on the record that Mr. Vanderwood's received a letter. They're asking for the formal withdrawal of their petition, and that is why we're taking no action.
And the formal withdrawal doesn't preclude, he still cannot bring this back in front of the board because he had a public hearing. is what you're
That's
saying.
right. The public hearing.
Is there a time, a limitation of time?
Is it a year or 6 months under your code? I didn't look up the ordinance. It's either a year or 6 months.
There's a period of time.
Yes.
And that period of time is going to happen if you withdraw the motion or whatever.
Once that plan commission had that public hearing and took that vote, now they're stuck with,
Okay.
For the time frame, you're stuck with that time
that's correct.
frame. Further action is needed.
Okay. Thank you for the update.
That brings us to item E, carpet cleaning at Town Hall and the Munster Police Department.
Yeah, so we want to, take care of the house. And so we sought a number of bids to have these carpets professionally cleaned. You can see who we've sent it to. We had 2 bids come in. After staff reviewed those 2 bids, we found Oxy Magic of Northwest Indiana to be non-responsive and unresponsible, given the specs of the bid request. So we are recommending Stanley Seamer to conduct this work. And we're looking for your permission to enter into that service contract.
Thank you. Let's say you.
Mr. President, I move for the town council to approve the Stanley Steamer proposal dated October 13, 2021 for carpet cleaning at the Munster Town Hall for $1,748.40 and at Munster Police Department for $556.50, totaling $2,304.90.
Is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion?
just thank you for the memo and clarifying the rationale behind the selection.
Roll call.
Counselor Schoen.
Yes.
Counselor Mellon.
Yes.
Counselor Gardner.
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki.
Yes.
And President Kulturitis.
Yes.
And as a member of the staff that works in the building every day, we say on their behalf, we all say thank you.
You're welcome. Item F, copier maintenance, Pulse Technologies.
Another very mundane but very important item. So we concluded our lease purchase term with McShane's, now Pulse Technologies. And in that 60-month relationship, we paid, in addition to the lease purchase price, the copiers, a maintenance fee. So, they were working so well, just like anything else. You don't really realize that it expired until something goes wrong. You say, wait a second. So it was brought to our attention that it's time to look for copier maintenance. Pulse wanted the business again, thought it would be worthwhile to see who else would do it. So we went to Proven Business Solutions in RKW of Franklin, Illinois. Neither firm chose to bid on this work, so we are recommending to continue our relationship with Pulse Technology of Chesterton, Indiana, for a quarterly maintenance cost of $4,275.
I'd make a motion that we authorize the town manager to enter into the annual maintenance agreement with Pulse Technologies at a quarterly rate not to exceed $4,275.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I was just looking at from the memo, it looks like the service and supplies in the previous arrangement was considerably less than the current arrangement. So curious if there's a reason for that. Obviously, they're the only bid. And one clarification question, this does include the ink.
Whole thing, yeah.
So it's the whole thing.
So yeah, that is a number that jumps out, and I think if you were to ask Pulse Technology or proven if they wanted to bid on it, they'd say that the machines are older, so they're anticipating that it might cost more to maintain.
So all same service, maintenance, et cetera. Like, if you have a brand new car, it's not gonna break that much.
Right.
If you have an old car, the service contract might be more expensive.
Perhaps, I mean, we haven't seen the machines break down in a significant way. It's good to have someone on call so they can get out there fast, have that relationship, right? They know our machines, Pulse knows the machines. I mean, we could wing it perhaps and just like pay on per incident and hope that it's less.
But then you buy ink and
Yeah.
all sorts of supplies ad hoc as well, whereas this contract, if I understand it right, supplies that.
If you would like to get into the fine grained details of the contract, I'd be happy to do that. And you can take this off and I can bring
No,
back a
I'm not
more
asking
complete
you.
memo. Because I don't want to tell you something that's not 100% true. And honestly, I don't know that answer at top of mind, but it's a fair question. And this is not a time sensitive thing. So if you'd prefer to see it, I'm more than happy to take another crack
I
at
looked
this.
at the contract, my understanding was that those things, everything but paper was included, so there's no red flag, there's no need to take it off. Just a kind of point of information and curiosity.
Any other questions?
Counselor Schoen,
Yes.
Counselor Mellon,
Yes.
Counselor Gardner,
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes,
and President Kulturitis.
Yes. There is nothing under reports. Does anybody have a portfolio report they would like to present to us tonight?
I have some good news from the Lake County Solid Waste Management Board. It follows the sad news that they have to vacate their building on North Calumet Avenue, which has been an icon in Northwest Indiana with its trout pond and all lovingly prepared. But it's going to be torn down by the city, which owns the building, and a new fire station put in its place. But the good news is that within the week, we've agreed to purchase a building in Merrillville, which has plenty of space. It even has room for the board members to meet there instead of driving to Crown Point. It's more centrally located than North Hammond is to the entire county. I didn't get my wish, which was the other building that we looked at in Highland, which was closer to my home. But it just wasn't as good a building, and it didn't satisfy the needs of the board. And so they'll be moving in the next few weeks.
Thank you.
yeah, I could just add on to that, since Ken and I serve on the board together. I mean, the staff of that organization is really great. The primary thing that impacts our residents, other than when you drop off your recyclables and hazardous materials, is that your kids get to go and visit and learn about the climate change and recycling. And the trout pond is really cool, but it was great to see the staff very excited to now be able to own the building. In Hammond, they got it for free. There was no rent, but they didn't actually own the building. And this would be a different story here. It's the old Girl Scouts building, which is much larger. It has classroom, sort of, great places for lectures. And there's even a building, I believe, in the parking lot, which they could use to rent out for events or rent out. So they could actually develop, create some revenue from that. So all in all, this went from a crisis to a pretty cool solution that's much more centrally located, I think was the main thing. So thank you, Ken, for serving on that selection committee.
We had a motto. I've got to think of it. You should never let a crisis go to waste.
The crisis is a terrible thing
To waste.
to waste.
Nothing further.
Okay. Announcements, all town council meetings will begin at
Wendy.
Dr. Andy.
I do. I thought you knew that I had a couple things, Dr. Andy. My apologies for jumping in. This is directed toward the councilors and the town manager. Just in front of you, you'll see a certification that you're not violating the town of Munster contracting with a unit policy, that you're not, have no contracts with your relatives, public with business interests, with the town of Munster, or that you have a direct line supervision. So these are the town nepotism policies. Additionally, there's a form there which is a conflict of interest. So the key is to disclose it. So if you could please complete those and return to me, they'll be formally submitted at the next council meeting. And I'm done now, Dr.
Thank you.
All town council meetings will begin at 7 PM unless otherwise noted. November 22nd, no meeting. November 29th, no meeting. December 6th, regular town council redevelopment commission meeting. December 13th, no meeting. December 20th, regular town council redevelopment commission meeting. December 27th, no meeting. That brings us down to adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you for attending. I don't see him. Ready?
That's really not here.
Ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yep.
All right. I will bring the redevelopment commission meeting
We have
for.
some students who need a picture or something.
This meeting will take, it's not a
If
full.
the students need a picture of us afterwards, this meeting will take 2 minutes, and then we'll get pictures and handshakes and all that stuff right afterwards, okay? So just stick around for 2 more minutes, we'll.
If you need proof of life back there, that's all. All right, redevelopment commission meeting, regular meeting for November 15th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Schoon.
Present.
Commissioner Mellon.
Present.
Commissioner Gardner.
Present.
Commissioner Tulowitzki.
Present.
And Commissioner Kulturitis.
Present.
All five are here.
Brings us to open to the public. Does anybody wish to speak at the redevelopment commission meeting? Please step to the podium, name and address. Anybody online, Dustin? I will close the open to the public. That brings us down to the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I would make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Schoon.
Yes.
Commissioner Mellon.
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner.
Yes.
Commissioner Tulowitzki.
Yes.
And Commissioner Kulturitis.
Yes. There's nothing under old business and nothing under new business. There's nothing under reports. There are no announcements. That brings us to adjournment.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay, guys, come up here, let's get the pictures.